So, to an audience on CNN, real estate mogul Donald Trump said, basically reinforced everything that I have thought about Trump for a long time. My opinion, Trump is arrogant, self centered. Aside from things that make him money and enhance his personal fortune, I feel that Trump is not all that bright. And as a candidate, potential candidate for president, I don't think he is fit to lead. I don't think he has the demeanor to lead, nor the judgment, not even the experience. But Trump came across as arrogant and elitist. When he was interviewed on CNN recently, when asked about Mitt Romney's candidacy, he called Romney, basically brushed Romney off as a small businessman who didn't make all that, who made some money, but also lost jobs. This despite the fact that Trump went into bankruptcy in the past, Romney never did. And the fact that, Trump doesn't exactly have a perfect record either. Now, the thing that really struck a chord in me, was when Trump said that something to the effect that he's qualified to be president, not word for word, but something to the effect that he's qualified to be president because he's wealthier than the others, or specifically Romney. Now, I originally, I have not supported or endorsed a candidate. I'll get to that in a minute. But I think this was extremely arrogant and elitist of Trump. If you want Barack Obama to have a second term, I would urge you to vote for Donald Trump in the Republican primary, because Obama would beat Trump. I would not even vote for Trump. And I'm not saying I'd vote for Obama, but I would certainly not, I know offhand I would not be voting for Donald Trump. He's too arrogant, he's too elitist, and he's just too, I don't think he has the judgment nor the intellect to lead this country. And certainly the guy has a lot of wacky ideas. Now, I want to be upfront with you. My big problem with Mitt Romney, now I don't agree with his health care plan. I don't appreciate the fact that he flip-flopped on abortion or whatever the issue might be. But my real issue with Romney is a story that broke in the Boston Globe that I didn't really do research into until recently. That in 1983, the Romney family went on a trip for 12 hours and strapped a dog cage with the Romney's dog onto the car, driving at high speeds, which virtually was dog torture. And as an animal lover, I cannot support somebody for president in a primary who would do such a thing. That's the simple reason. I criticize me for it. That's my reasoning. I feel that I cannot vote for him in a primary. Now, if he runs against Obama, considering that I am no fan of Obama, I would vote for Romney. But don't count on me supporting him in a primary, most likely. Who can I vote for in a primary? I've narrowed it down to a couple candidates. First of all, there's Mike Huckabee, the former governor of Arkansas. Now, Huckabee, as governor, I feel, has a mixed record. On one hand, he did sign the first broad-based tax cuts in Arkansas history. He did leave office with a surplus, and he invested in health care for kids and infrastructure. When he did that, he paid for it. How he paid for it, I agree with some of it. I agree with with streamlining government, which he sought to do. I don't agree with some other things, but I think on those issues that I just mentioned are areas I think he has accomplishments. Now, where are his flaws? The amounts of pardons he had as governor, the tax increases he signed as governor, and the fact that he gave tuition breaks to the children of illegals in the Arkansas school system. Now, Huckabee, I would say, was a good governor who made mistakes. He definitely does have a mixed record. There's no denying that. As a presidential candidate, I think he brings to the table somebody who believes in the fair tax, which I believe is probably the best tax proposal there is out there to stimulate the economy and lower taxes on workers. He believes in a peace through strength foreign policy. He believes in immigration reform by securing the border. Doesn't support amnesty to illegals. He supports economic policies in which you grow the economy for the little guy, not Wall Street, and he's somebody who opposes deficit spending. That's something that would be refreshing to Washington D.C. So Huckabee has he has his issues. There's no doubt about it. I think he's articulate. I think he's fundamentally a nice guy. I think he's smart. I think he's electable. Then there's Herman Cain, a successful businessman, another supporter of the fair tax. I think Herman Cain is an individual of unique talent. He has a tremendous ability to relate to the grassroots. I think he would be and comes from he would be a fiscal conservative, which I think is something that we need today. You then have Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York City. Now, this is a guy who took over a city which has a larger population than a majority of U.S. states, a city which was in decline. He reduced taxes, he reformed welfare, and he cut crime rates. This is somebody who understands free market economic principles and that America needs to stay strong in the world and that we need a peace through strength foreign policy. I have my disagreements with him. As mayor of New York City, he supported sanctuary for illegal aliens. He, at one point, supported public funding for abortion. These are two positions I strongly disagree with. But I think that on the majority of the issues, he stands where I stand. After that, you then have another New Yorker, the former governor of New York, George Pataki. Again, I don't agree with him on every issue, but I think he brings to the table a fiscal conservative, somebody who has been a behind-the-scenes player in the past, opposing the Obama health care plan. Then you have another candidate who, up until recently, I didn't know much about. Up until about 2008, no one really knew about, the former governor of Minnesota, Tim Pawlenty. Governor Pawlenty has a lot of positive things on his resume. He, as governor of Minnesota, cut statewide spending. He reformed health care. He reduced taxes. He made Minnesota a leader in job growth when the economy was stronger. He's going to have to answer some questions. Did he support a regional cap and trade program? Were some of his spending restraint plans a one-time gimmick? And what about that $6 billion hole he left when he left office? Was that due to his leadership or because of the economic crisis? Now let's also remember, Pawlenty was a good governor. Oh, he was a net positive for Minnesota. There's no doubt about it. He took on the unions. He cut spending. He could have done more if there was a Republican legislature. And the one-time gimmicks that he passed, I don't necessarily only blame him because he has to answer for that, but he did have to deal with a Democrat legislature. And so I think he brings to the table. I think he's a genuine guy. He's not, look, there's no doubt about it. He's not that charismatic. He's a good speaker, but not a great one. But frankly, I don't think Americans are concerned about that. I think they're concerned about who's going to protect their country and who's going to promote economic growth. I know that's what I'm concerned about. And finally, you have Buddy Roemer, the former governor of Louisiana, who I know very little about and I'm anxious to know more about. I like what he has to say so far. We'll have to hear more from him. And then finally, Mitch Daniels, the former governor, the governor of Indiana, who has a record of fiscal discipline. Let's see what he has to say, if he's even going to make a run for the White House. As far as the other candidates are concerned, I don't know that much. Haley Barbour and Rick Santorum are in my column of likely, chances are I will not be voting for them in the primary. We'll see what happens in the general election. Now, Newt Gingrich has his baggage. He also has his record of having fought to reform welfare and balance the budget. These are positives. He has his issues as well. And, I don't know whether I will vote for him in the Republican primary. Sarah Palin, Ron Paul, Gary Johnson are people I will not vote for in the Republican primary or the general election. Sarah Palin, because I don't feel that she has I don't think she has the judgment to lead. And Ron Paul, I oppose simply because I cannot agree with his stance on the majority of foreign policy issues. And Gary Johnson, I could almost vote for Gary Johnson if it weren't for foreign policy. In fact, if it weren't for foreign policy, I could possibly vote for Gary Johnson. But because of foreign policy, these guys take a position which is part of the left-wing Blame America First crowd. And look, I've been attacked by the Paulites for saying this, but I'm speaking the truth here. These guys believe in fundamentally Blame America First. and that's not what I stand for. So thank you for listening.